there is that kind of a slight feeling like are you trying to tell me something? Am I done? Have I peaked? Are you telling me that, okay, run along now? Looking back, I wouldn't change a thing. Like I'm really proud of what we achieved, but I was at the point where I just had to do a sabbatical. Like I went away at the end of the project for half a year.
Hello and welcome to the Game Business Show, your guide to the goings-on in the global video game industry. We have mostly featured business leaders on this show so far, but today we have a real creative pioneer and one of the most distinct voices making big-scale video games today. He is known for such seminal works as Max Payne, Alan Wake Control, and 2023's award-winning, critically acclaimed Alan Wake 2. He has exceptional taste in suits and loves a coffee. It's the creative director over at Remedy, Sam Lake. Hello, Sam. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Chris. Thank you. Pleasure to be here. And I do have my coffee.
Just get that in. You know what? You told me when I saw you at GDC, this is what this interview sort of related to. And you were telling me that, was it the Alan Wake 1 remastered campaign that whole coffee thing came about?
Yes. Yeah. My fancy coffee TikTok. Alan Wake Remastered didn't have a huge marketing campaign and I wanted to do my part. So I did a couple of goofy videos, finding our oh dear diner, Alan Wake coffee thermoses in the forest and in a lake, and did these kinds of videos and then forgot all about the whole TikTok. And then when we were gearing up for Alan Wake 2 campaign, I tried to think of something that would be so easy, like it wouldn't be stressful to kind of like create more videos. And traveling all around the world, promoting the game, I just started thinking that, well, taking a sip of coffee wherever I am in the world and doing a video and putting some nice music in the background. And it's been going on for several years now and with a lot of amazing guest stars joining in.
Does it not get tiring when fans say, can I do a video? Can I do, have you had to set rules?
No, I mean, a lot of the fans have been doing their own coffee videos and linking them over social media, which I really appreciate the effort.
Well, I'm not here to talk about coffee. I'm here because congratulations on your GDC Lifetime Achievement Award. Although you're getting a few of these awards now. You're doing a keynote at Develop Brighton. This isn't a farewell tour for Sam Lake, is it?
I hope not. Yeah, I mean, all of this is a huge honor, especially coming after Alan Wake 2. That was like all of these games, making them, it's hard work. And in many ways, because of the circumstances around, for the longest time, not being able to get to Alan Wake 2, it felt like a very personal project, and I wanted to try to push the creative side as far as I could. And Remedy turning 30 years, and me being at Remedy towards the end of this year, I have been working at Remedy for 30 years. So it's wonderful. But yes, there is that kind of a slight feeling like are you trying to tell me something? Am I done? Have I peaked? Are you telling me that, okay, run along now? But no, like honestly, still a lot of passion and a lot of ideas. I don't think like doing this kind of work, kind of training your mind to react on obstacles, coming up with creative ideas on how to go forward. Ideas like they won't stop coming. They're like even taking a break and going on holiday, I've learned to always carry a notebook with me because that's when the ideas start coming, the new ideas.
Yeah, you need to give yourself that space for those things as well because, Well, let's talk a little bit about the Alan Wake 2 because last time we spoke, we've spoke to each other a few times, we've run into each other a few times. The last time we spoke sort of formally was on stage at EGX in London, packed out crowd, standing room only. I mean, it felt like a proper celebration, but I remember backstage, you looked tired.
Oh, yeah.
The game still wasn't quite ready yet, so you might have been anxious. It feels like it might have been a bit of a torturous journey to that point, but at the same time, it was such a successful game. It did so well. It was so well received. How were you feeling at that point?
I was tired. I was very tired and stressed, and well, that's part of this work. I feel making games, it's a very complex thing, and especially with Alan Wake 2, as I said, I really, really wanted to kind of like be hands-on. I mean, it's always teamwork and wonderful colleagues, really talented people, but I really wanted to be hands-on in many areas, writing, directing, also co-directing the live action parts, which we had a lot. I wanted to be involved in making the music, especially the lyrics, with a lot of wonderful musicians collaborating. I was acting a part in it. There were a lot of elements there. When this kind of a big machine production starts rolling, it's not built around one person's availability. So if you want to do all of these different things, you need to be flexible, and you need to stress and stretch, and you need to be working like a crazy person to achieve it. I felt it was worth it, but it was a lot. And there is always this struggle of, the creative vision, but then the production realities and the schedules and the budget and the scope, and it's complicated. So towards the end, yes, I had been working a lot of nights and a lot of weekends and for a long time, and I was very tired. But I'm looking back, I wouldn't change a thing. Like I'm really proud of what we achieved, but I was at the point where I just had to do a sabbatical. Like I went away at the end of the project for half a year. And that was much needed, and well, feeling much better these days after it.
Where did you go? Did you go anywhere nice?
Some vacation trips, and then just like, as you do in Finland, summer cabin over a long summer, and yeah, just taking it easy and not building any kind of I must do this and this and this, but rather keeping the calendar empty.
But you had your notebook with you.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And plenty of ideas for sure.
It's weird though, because I guess video games aren't necessarily built that way. That sort of auteur, sort of somebody in being involved in every corner of the project. It gives games, Kojima springs to mind. It creates a sort of unique style that you don't get from other games of that scale. But because of the complexity of making video games, it doesn't feel like a very sustainable way from an individual point of view to making a game like this. But obviously it can pay off, even if you have to break yourself to do it.
I mean, like I would not be doing that alone. I really believe in collaboration. Kyle Rowley is the game director, so we were co-directing this whole thing. I was writing it together with Clay Murphy. Anssi Määttä is our live action director, so we were co-directing live action parts. And there were, as said, wonderful musicians. So I felt that I had a very talented kind of a professional partner in every area. Who could, of course, contribute it in a big way, and could also carry it if I needed to be somewhere else.
How would you rank it then in terms of your achievements, Alan Wake 2? Because I think it's your best work by, and then that's saying something. How do you feel about it?
Well, thank you. I mean, obviously, time does things to how you feel about your projects, and getting some distance. I don't think that we are far enough from Alan Wake to really yet to be able to compare. But yeah, I'm very proud and I'm very happy. I feel through all of our games, there are certain elements that I've been really interested in interactive storytelling that I've been kind of like experimenting on and building on, like bringing in different mediums into the video game context. And certainly we were able to push that much further, I would say, a leap forward in this one. And that includes live action, that includes, pages of prose and poetry and photography and a musical sequence with dance choreography and custom songs with custom lyrics that are about the storytelling, and all of these things kind of like finding a way to weave them together is something that I'm really interested in and feel passionate about. But also in Alan Wake 2, we managed to finally, I would say, in a Remedy game, create gameplay mechanics that were about the story, not just about like having your action core gameplay and then experiencing the story on the side, but finally with the case board and the plot board and finding clues and all of this kind of like we were bringing now finally mechanics that are about how you experience the story and how you kind of like put the story together. That as well felt like a clear step forward when it comes to storytelling in the context of a game.
Yeah, well, it's certainly distinctive. When the news came out that you were making Alan Wake 2, I was extremely excited because I was a big fan of the very first game. But as a business journalist, my brain also thought, well, that makes little financial sense. and have you ever felt tempted to just, make a big first person shooter or open world action RPG and just, cash in and I'm not the poetry this time, not the live action. I'm going to make a hit. I'm going to make myself a 10 million seller because I'm sure you could.
Well, I mean, the whole story of making the first Alan Wake game, obviously it's well documented that we were planning on doing an open world, free roaming open world game, and we failed. We just couldn't make it work, and we kind of like went into more linear direction. I think that we have been on the design side taking steps to, let's say, a more modern way of building the world and the missions, and Control was a big step into that kind of like this semi-open hub like structure. And the credit for that in a big way goes to Mikael Kasurinen, who is the game director on the Control side, bringing that, and very much the learnings from that we took into Alan Wake 2. And so the world was built in hubs, and then we have missions in the hub. So it's already, it's not a linear tube, it's a more open structure. I think that has been that one kind of like learning is that we have taken steps towards various goals patiently, kind of like step by step, instead of doing too big of a leap and suddenly being in a place where we are not really that familiar with these elements and don't have experience, but rather building towards it. So, we are looking into more open structure. In some cases, I think it's logical to build on what we have on the foundation of the previous game. So there is that, but it's, my passion is in storytelling.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really kind of like want to keep on finding opportunities to explore like new ideas within that context in the games.
I mean, I know I say I'm a business journalist, but I would argue focusing on what you do well and the things that you create, don't chase the trends, But video game costs keep going up, right? And the time it takes to make them seems to be getting longer and longer. Not quite as long as the first Alan Wake, granted. But how mindful are you as a writer and a creative director to those sort of financial pressures surrounding the business? Or do you just sort of leave those concerns aside when making something?
Well, I mean, everybody has a role, which is a positive thing. Like I was just talking about stretching thin in trying to do various things, adding, business side to it or production would be quite a lot. That being said, of course, you need to be mindful of these things because ultimately, if you are not, you will not be able to create the game. This side of things needs to be taken into account. And for me, more and more, I've grown to think that this is the early phases of a project are so crucial. Making solid plans, doing estimates, making sure that what we are about to start building is within the agreed scope. And also in a case of story-focused experience, that we have a screenplay and we are far enough in figuring out the story so that we can, when we kick off the actual production, because that's the most expensive part, of course, just having 150 people on monthly salary, it starts burning the budget really fast. So making sure that all the plans are in place and tested and vetted. And that also very much speaks for building on the foundation of what you know and what you have already kind of built, and team being familiar with the tools that you are using, and preferably key members of the team having been there to build the previous experience, and that then just kind of like going from there. There is a lot of excitement in new ideas always. But I also think that there is nothing wrong in the idea of building a sequel based on the previous games. I don't see Alan Wake 2 quite that way because there was such a huge gap in between and games had really moved forward. But just this idea of building something and then relying on certain things that were successful in that, and creating more, and then innovating in some areas, that just makes it more predictable.
That consistency does obviously help, that sort of consistency from one game to the other and being able to build upon everything you've done before. From the outside though, Remedy looks like a pretty unique place to work with. It seems to, afford you and your teammates to do these sort of wild, experimental, unusual things, or at least they feel wild and experimental in the AAA game space. Have they ever said no? Have you ever come to them with an idea and a pitch and they've gone, Sam, no, absolutely not?
Well, I mean, certainly there are passionate and sometimes heated discussions. I mean, the goal is to create successful entertainment products. Yes, I want to put in as much art as possible, but ultimately, here at Remedy, everybody is on this together, and success on one side then is success for everybody. There is sensibility in people having different viewpoints and roles, and then kind of like voicing ideas and voicing concerns is an important part of the process. It's rarely the case where, and I would not even want it that way, that, let's say, myself or some other creative or game director would be just coming with an idea and there would not be iteration on the idea based on very early notes. You will miss things and you have not thought about things from all angles. And that's why it's teamwork, even on kind of like early production sensibilities and business sensibilities. Those are the earliest conversations that we have. So it's part of this, and it makes this work possible. It's an important part of it. I mean, sure, like nobody loves being told that this doesn't work, your idea doesn't work, but that is an important step into making something that works. That being said, I fully believe that being unique and being original and doing some things that make you stand out are vital. For competition perspective, there is a lot of noise out there, a lot of great games. So making a same kind of a game and maybe not having as much resources as the really, really big platform owners or own studios have, we just need to find a way to stand out.
Game like Alan Wake 2, how much of this is something, the game you wanted to make? And how much of it is you thinking about the audience and what you think they would want to receive? That sort of balance between sort of an artistic expression of yourself whilst also trying to make a product really for an audience.
I think it needs to be both. It needs to be both always. It's a long journey making a game. It's a struggle and you will be tired. So it needs to be something you fully believe in and feel passionate about. Otherwise, you will not kind of like have the strength to push through. That's one side of it. You need to be really, really excited about making this kind of an experience. But then I feel as creative and with experience of the previous games, certainly we analyze and look at the reception of our previous games and do analyses on them, like which parts worked great, which were not liked to the point of a trend. So we shouldn't repeat the weakest parts again, hopefully, and come up with something better on that. I mean, I feel from creative perspective, you can be passionate about succeeding in that as well. And very much one example would be now that we are building a universe, Remedy connected universe between Alan Wake and Control, it would kind of be easy to fall into the trap of just making the experience for you being very deep in that lore, but also your most excited fans who very much know everything. But that's not the ambition. The ambition very much, and I fully kind of like sign on the dotted line on the idea of we want to make every game, whether it's a sequel or whether it's part of the universe, something that is approachable for a newcomer who has never played a Remedy game before. You need to be able to play it through. Yes, you will probably miss connections and optional content that is more lore heavy, but you should be able to experience the kind of the critical path and enjoy it. And that's a kind of a puzzle to solve with each of these games. And a lot of the idea of two playable characters and having the FBI agent Saga Anderson be kind of like a dual protagonist in Alan Wake 2 comes initially from this idea that she doesn't know this world, she doesn't know this supernatural or lore, and she comes in to investigate. And the whole setup of FBI agents coming into a place that they don't know to investigate a murder is very familiar to a wide audience. So as a starting point, making that be the beginning of the game, making it approachable so for somebody who doesn't know anything about Alan Wake or Remedy universe was part of a solution to this kind of, and I feel really happy about what we did with that. But it's this kind of like, it's puzzling these things together and, you know, then creating with Saga the story I feel passionate to tell, but also being mindful of the audience and kind of ambition for reaching a larger audience.
Great answer. I'll change the subject a little bit because I read your GQ interview and you talked about the character of Sam Lake. I remember the first time I got an email from you and I said, who's this Sammy Jarvi? I don't know who's he. Well,
yes.
But also it's not just, the name, there's the coffee, there's the suits. And you sort of played this role for quite a long time now. Do you still see two distinct sides of yourself? Or is there an element of not really knowing where Sam Lake ends and Sammy Jarvi begins? Are you sort of slowly merging into a different person?
Yeah, interesting. It can also be kind of a buffer and a bit of a shield in a way. But then once again, time does things to you and your perception of things. I was very self-conscious and shy growing up, and I really hated performing. Well, that's not quite right. The small things of performing, say, in a school play, I didn't mind, but there's the role then. But doing a presentation in front of a class was the absolute horrifying thing. And early years, promoting Max Payne, I was so nervous about demoing the game and talking about it. At the same time, I did not have any hesitation or problems in posing as Max Payne in the first game. So there is this weird schizophrenic thing. And, the spelling of Finnish names is tricky. And I saw many errors in the credits of the first game, which was Death Rally, by our publisher in the manual. Many of the names were misspelled, and always kind of like, explaining how to spell it just felt like a chore. But I also, like, early on, I was feeling quite strongly that when I write in my native tongue in Finnish, what comes out is very different from writing in English. And that felt like an important point to me. So using the artist name Sam Lake from early on felt like a solution, and I felt good about that. And yes, it was a bit of a role in a sense. And then, of course, when you do it years, that it feels like there never was an option to go back anymore. It didn't make any sense. These days, having professionally written in English and more in my work life, English is the language we communicate in the documentation, but here also because Remedy, half of the people working at Remedy come from somewhere else than Finland. It's been going on for so long. I don't believe anymore that my output when I write and how I see it is that different between the languages. I feel, well, maybe I've gotten better with the language along the way as well, but I don't feel that there is difference anymore. And I don't feel that strongly about, doing so much of the promotion work. I don't feel shy about it anymore, or haven't for years and years. So these things evolve, but well, I'm happy to be Sam Lake in all of this.
I think all of us, particularly anyone that has a role that's remotely public facing, you play versions of yourself, right? It's not like you're completely different. It's just that when I started doing this, and nowadays I don't even think twice about it. I was on the BBC this morning talking about my Minecraft movie. 10 years ago, the thought of that would have sent me into a meltdown.
Right. I do feel like I do love the meta layer of storytelling and being aware of these roles. And I do feel like that is part of the reason why, Sam Lake as a character, especially now in Alan Wake, in various ways in DLC as well, keeps popping into the fiction. And I think that that's part of this kind of like well, hold on, how does this role actually work, and what does it mean, and how much of it is fiction and not? So that just feels like a natural extension of thinking about these things and playing around with them.
With your personality and doing TikToks with coffee, you do a little bit of PR and marketing, I guess, for your games. And now that Remedy is sort of moving into self-publishing, are they tapping you on the shoulder now to be the head of marketing and to come up with some of the plans?
Happily not. I feel we are still figuring it out, and we are in a transition position. Remedy have grown so much, and for years and years it was always one game at a time, and now it's several. And you know, coming out of Alan Wake 2, feeling that I was like doing as much as I possibly could do, you know, the question of, well, how about doing another project on the side simultaneously? Just feels, well, that's too much is the answer. And so what we have now done already for a while is that I'm not the only creative director in the company. Mikael Kasurinen is, we are co-creative directors now, and we are dividing work. And at the same time, every project, like I will have a project where I'm go deep and be hands-on, and Mikael has a project that he goes deep and is hands-on. But beyond that, we are planning the overall universe, and we are involved, say, with Annapurna Pictures now.
Of course.
You know, exploring the ideas of our world and our universe being also in linear media. But every project has a kind of a strong creative core group of its own. And how I see it is that for these projects, I'm really more a consultant, coming in when they want notes, or when we have an internal gate, kind of looking at it from perspective of my expertise, which would be then storytelling, and just giving advice when needed. This definitely feels like the best solution we have figured out to just growing and doing things simultaneously. Because otherwise, if it's up to one person to kind of come up with the vision and direct it through, then we would still be doing more or less one project, or one bigger project and another tiny project or something like that. And the ambition is to do more.
The reason why I asked the marketing, I remember speaking to someone at Bethesda years ago who said that Todd Howard is actively involved in the marketing, because for their point of view, the first time their audience touches Fallout or experiences Fallout is when they see the trailer, it's when they see the artwork. And I guess you are involved in that stuff anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
And of course, things like drinking a cup of coffee in a lake is all very, very Alan Wake. I guess that's the marketing team has to also understand the vision for the project and understand the vibe and the theme.
Sure. But that's the question of what's the cause and what's the effect that me in a lake, is that because in Finland that's what you do in the summer with thousands of lakes, and that's why we have lore focused on a lake in Alan Wake, or do I go into lake because there is a lake in Alan Wake? I'm very much, and more I feel, maybe that's an age question as well. More and more I feel I'm drawing inspiration from Finnish culture and kind of like things that are very familiar to me growing up here.
Yeah, that gives that the uniqueness as well we talked about earlier. Well, I'm conscious of the time, but you know, seeing as this is, you have your lifetime achievement, you've achieved all your things you need to achieve in your lifetime.
now another lifetime's work.
Yeah. So the next lifetime? What would you what's you like to achieve? You wanted to write books initially. Is there a part of that, or is it still love for video games?
Like I was thinking that I would be a novelist, and then Remedy happened, and so it is a 30-year detour to that dream. Yeah, I'm hoping that I will get a chance, maybe once I finally retire from making games, to still do creative work and write and have other, maybe then smaller, more personal projects, but not yet. Personally, right now, I mean, we have a lot of games in the making, keeps me busy for sure, and planning the universe beyond. I am personally really excited about the possibilities with Annapurna on TV and film. And for sure, we've been trying to get something started on and off for years and years and years. And we are in very early stages now. So I'm aware that it's a complex process and you never know. But I have to say that they are a wonderful partner. And I am cautiously optimistic about kind of like our exciting discussions there. I hope to be able to be involved in that process as it goes forward. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I'm certainly looking forward to, I sort of feel like I know what a Sam Lake movie might be like based on what you've done in games, but I get a sense of it, but I think it would still be very, very surprising. Well, thank you so much, Sam, for your time. It's a pleasure to have you on the show and to give us so much of your time and insight into what you're doing. And congratulations again on your award.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this was fun. Thank you.
Yes. That's it for today's episode of the Game Business Show. Join us later in the week for our news and analysis show. Until then, thank you for tuning in. Greatest movie of all time?
I'll say Maltese Falcon.
PC or console?
Console these days, yes.
If you could direct a video game based on a franchise other than your own, what would it be?
I would do a Moomin game.
Very Finnish. Greatest album of all time?
Tom Waits' Rain Dogs.
How many suits do you own?
7 or 8.
Oh, thought it'd be higher. If you can't have a coffee, what do you drink?
I drink green tea.
Oh, and what one piece of advice would you give to budding video game creators?
Start creating. For me and many other video game makers, tabletop role-playing games can be a surprisingly great low barrier of entry